Conversation for lesson 27.
The way people like to crowd together on the beach is interesting.
Someone said it was because the English live so much apart from everyone in their homes. On holiday, therefore, they like to be in a crowd, to talk with other people, and to enjoy themselves together. But I think it's just that some seaside towns have grown too big for the beaches.
Another thing one notices here is the way older women wear gay summer dresses. In many European countries, they'd accept their age and just wear black. Look at that lady going into the sea in that brightly coloured bathing dress. She must be at least 70.
Shh, be careful what you say. People can overhear you.
Nonsense. Everyone's much too busy talking about everyone else.
And many foreigners say, "Oh, you English are so unsociable." I don't know if it's true.
I must say I don't find English people difficult to talk to.
Of course, we haven't really spoken to so many, and it's so easy to make generalizations.
Oh, by the way, talking of speaking to Englishmen, I forgot to tell you that I had a word with Davidson, this business friend of mine you met at the fair. He confirmed lunch tomorrow. You can talk the whole matter over then.
Oh, that's excellent. Things are certainly looking up. Perhaps everything the fortune teller said to me will come true.
What did she say?
Ah, that's a secret. If I tell you, everything may fall through. One can never tell.
You're becoming superstitious.
Superstitious? Of course I'm not superstitious. People laugh at fortune tellers, but sometimes, you know, one must trust what they say, especially if they make you feel good.
Conversation for lesson 28.
Well, that was an excellent lunch. Thank you. And I'm most interested in your umbrella. I think it's amazing the way you can get it into your pocket, as if it were a handkerchief.
You noticed how everyone in the street was very interested when I gave that demonstration before lunch? Did you hear that man say he would be one of the first people to get one when it came onto the market?
Oh, I don't think you'll have any difficulty in getting it accepted commercially. Why, if I had the capital, I'd go in with you myself.
Are you quite certain you can't? We shouldn't need so much capital, and the profits would be large.
No, the trouble is that I've too much to do already. I can't even get through all the work I have at the moment. By the way, would you like a cigar?
No thanks, I don't smoke very much. Well, what do you suggest?
I think the best thing for you to do is to go and see these brokers I know. I got a very friendly letter from them this morning. Perhaps you can get them to lend you some money. I'll give you their address, and you can write to them. Meanwhile, I'll get through to them on the phone.
Surely, though, it would be worth getting rid of some of your other activities.
Perhaps, but it would be difficult. Well, thanks again. I must be getting along.
You wouldn't like a brandy or a whiskey?
No, I'd better not. I'll have to get a taxi as it is to take me to the station. I have to get to London by 5. Oh, what's happening?
Oh, dear, there goes my umbrella.
Goodness, it's floating up to the ceiling.
It must have inflated in my pocket.
Well, that certainly is a disadvantage.
Oh, no, please don't get worried. I can assure you it's nothing. It's probably the button. It just needs a little adjustment.
Conversation for lesson 30.
Well, thank you very much. We've spent 3 happy days with you.
It's certainly been a great pleasure to have you. We're not really used to seeing many visitors, and this has been a most agreeable change.
I hope you have a nice journey, though I don't envy you.
You don't like travelling? Didn't you used to go abroad before you retired?
Not by rail, if I could help it. although we used to travel quite a lot when we were younger. But for some years now, I've only used the car.
Yes, my wife has quite a complex about travelling by train. She was involved in a slight crash about 5 years ago, and ever since she's dreaded the thought of a train journey. Writers must have their neuroses, you know.
Oh, it isn't that.
What happened?
It was one of those slow country lines, and the engine ran into a cow at about 5 miles an hour and came off the rails. However, the carriages were all right. One compartment was damaged, but luckily no one was in it. There were no casualties, apart from the cow.
No, of course, it was nothing. But we get so used to thinking that accidents can't happen to us. And then one does happen.
Well, this is hardly a cheerful way of seeing you off.
Oh, no, it doesn't make any difference to us. I still think that trains are as safe as houses.
I never used to worry. I'm sure you won't.
Here it comes.
Well, goodbye. Have a wonderful time in London. I hope you make good use of Davidson's introduction, Harry. And good luck to you too, Peter, with your search for a job.
I didn't know you were trying to get a job in England, Peter.
Didn't you?
Is your luggage all right?
Yes, the porter's putting it in the van.
I think you'll be off in a minute.
Yes, the guard's waving his flag.
Thank you so much once again.
Goodbye. Conversation for lesson 31.
Now that we're alone, Peter, I'd like you to give me some information. What's all this about getting a job in England?
Oh, nothing definite. But I may try and get work here when I finish my course at the university. That's all.
But why? Surely you've been in England long enough.
Maybe. But as I'm getting married...
You see, Harry, I told you this would happen even before the news of their engagement was announced. Now that he's marrying an English girl, we may never see Peter again.
Oh, come now, it isn't as bad as that.
Can't I live where I like when I'm married?
Of course. But you should think of your parents a little and the country where you were brought up.
That'll do now, Barbara, and you, Peter. We're there, we're at the hotel.
But, Mother, I haven't said I was going to live here for good. I only want to see what the possibilities are.
Yes, but if everything goes well, you'll stay here.
And then you won't be able to interfere without making a long journey.
Peter, how dare you speak like that?
Oh, I'm sorry, Mother. I shouldn't lose my temper. But if I'm old enough to get married, surely I can also decide where I'm going to live.
I suppose you think I'm going to be the traditional mother-in-law.
No.
This is the limit. When are you two going to get out?
Oh, have we arrived?
Have we arrived? Look, the meter's just clocked up another sixpence. Do you think I'm going to pay for you to sit there and argue?
Well, it's all very upsetting.
You'd better continue your argument at the hotel. You'll have some furniture there that you can throw at one another. I think even that would be less expensive in the long run.
Conversation for lesson 32.
I think I may have been foolish, getting up so early on the day that I'm going to see these brokers.
Oh, I'm sure you'll be just as persuasive.
Wasn't all that bargaining interesting? Did you hear that woman? If she hadn't beaten the man down, she would have paid a fortune for all those flowers she was buying for that big hotel.
Do you know that she got up at 5 this morning so that she could buy the best flowers?
I suppose the men who sell the fruit and vegetables sleep during the day and work at night.
The lorry drivers do. They load up the farm produce before dawn and then drive in from the country. We might have seen them arrive if we'd been here a little earlier.
The lorry driver we met said he might come to this cafe when he'd finished unloading, didn't he?
I think so. If he does, he can tell us more about it. I suppose they sell everything wholesale here.
That's right. and then it's sold at retail prices in the shops.
Otherwise, all those apples and pears wouldn't have been so cheap.
Well, what a good housewife I married. She's only been in England a few weeks, and she already knows what's good value and what isn't.
I think you might show less surprise after we've been married so long. Oh, look at Peter. He's yawning.
I know. I'm not used to getting up so early. Father's yawning, too.
Yes. I'd go back to bed now if I didn't have that appointment with the brokers.
By the way, if you are unsuccessful, Mr. Sallis, we'll go and see my employer, who's an MP. I should have thought of it before. He could probably give you a lot of advice.
I didn't know you worked for an MP, Pamela. You do keep things to yourself.
Well, the subject never came up. Of course, I'm on holiday now, but I go back to work in a few days.
Anyway, it's a very good suggestion, Pamela.
Ah, here comes our breakfast.
Might I have the sauce, Mr. Sallis?
This is where those men get their muscles from for loading and unloading those lorries. You two men ought to go out and help them afterwards.
Perhaps I would, if I were strong enough.
Well, we've got a good excuse. It might really be disastrous. As we don't belong to the union, there'd probably be a strike.
Conversation for lesson 33.
No, I hadn't a chance. He explained, very nicely of course, that credit facilities hadn't got any better since last year, and that the company didn't have any spare money for new inventions.
Oh, that's a pity.
You know, he just sat there in his office and kept on offering me tea, as if that was what I wanted. "Will you have some tea?" were almost the first words he said to me. And "Won't you really have any tea?" were almost the last.
Perhaps he felt you needed strengthening.
Perhaps. What happened to you?
Oh, I got some of the information I needed, but I think it's going to be rather difficult to get the work I want here. I'll have to persuade some employer to apply to the Home Office on my behalf, saying he wants me rather than anyone else to work for him.
Everything certainly is difficult over here.
I suppose it's always like that when one first goes abroad. But perhaps it will all work out for you when you go and see Pamela's MP.
By the way, have you any idea where we are?
Well, actually, no. I know we passed some traffic lights, but
Oh, I thought you knew where you were going.
I thought you did.
Why don't you ask someone?
All right. Excuse me, could you give me some help?
Je ne comprends pas, monsieur. Je regrette.
Well, I'm quite sure he's not English. Ask that lady.
All right. Excuse me?
Mi dispiace, ma non parlo inglese.
Well, it seems to be somewhat difficult to find an Englishman. Perhaps we aren't in London at all.
You mean because we've walked so far?
Oh, if only we could find a policeman. I haven't any idea where we are.
Perhaps we could ask at one of these houses. There must be some Englishman somewhere who could help us.
Shall I ring a doorbell?
Why not?
Which one?
Oh, it doesn't matter. Any of them will do.
Well, let's see what happens now.
Conversation for lesson 34.
Quickly.
Excuse me, we
Please
just
come
want to...
in. Oh, that's right. Otherwise they'll escape into the street and be run over.
Who will escape? We are...
Our cats. It's feeding time.
Your cats?
Of course. I suppose you want to leave your pets here for the holidays?
Well, actually...
Oh, they'll be wonderfully looked after. You've no idea how well we treat them. It's as if they were royal guests.
The point is...
I'm so glad you came just now. It's so interesting to see them drinking up their milk. Look. Here we are. You see, each animal has its own little private suite in the garden. They're so happy.
How many cats have you got, madam?
Oh, well, it varies. In summer, when most people go away for their holidays, we have up to 30.
And how many dogs?
Dogs? Oh, none. We've no dogs here and never have had.
No, of course not.
I suppose it would be no good trying. They wouldn't get on well with the cats.
Now just look at this sweet little Siamese kitten. Come here. Pussy, pussy, pussy. It belongs to Lord Dartmoor, you know. Quite a few of our cats come from the best families. Look at that fur. Isn't it a beautiful animal?
Very beautiful.
And the tail. And look at his pink gums. You know, you can always tell the health of a cat by its mouth. He's very playful, of course, like most kittens, but he won't hurt you. We cut their claws every fortnight, you know. Ow! Oh, you naughty pussy.
Excuse me, we really must...
Oh, but of course he's no better than most of our animals. None of them are in bad condition when we've had them for a little time. I'm sure you'll find that no home in London is as comfortable as this one.
I'm sorry, but...
What is it?
We really came to ask the way.
Ask the way.
You see, we're lost.
Why on earth didn't you say so?
Well, we did try, and we didn't want to appear rude.
Yes, and anyway, it's been most interesting seeing your cats.
I'm sure it has. Such beautiful animals as these are few and far between. You know, we've got several prize winners. Now that one over there...
Excuse my interrupting, but we really must find our way to the Leicester Hotel in Brown Street. We both adore cats, but please, would you help us?
Conversation for lesson 35.
I know nothing about politics. I'm only a businessman, so you must excuse all my questions. What sort of people become MPs?
Oh, all sorts. Some of them are professional politicians. Others are businessmen, miners, engineers, ex-officers, ex-government officials, every profession you can think of. I myself worked on the railways before I went into the House.
But you've been an MP for a long time.
Yes, I was first elected in 1935, but then I was defeated in the post-war general election.
And what did you do then?
Luckily, I got back later. Only just, though. Everybody thought it was a safe constituency for the other party. And neither I nor my rival thought I would be elected. I beat him by only 300 votes.
But did you have only one rival?
No, there were two others, but neither of them had the ghost of a chance.
Do you mean that in a British election, it's usually a struggle between two main candidates?
Usually, yes. We have two major parties. Either of them can be elected. Sometimes they don't win by very many seats either.
I see. And how long does it take an MP to become a minister?
Oh, that varies. Most of us never do.
I suppose it depends on whether your party's in power or not, or whether your particular ideas are popular.
Yes, that sort of thing.
I must come and listen to a debate one day. Neither my son Peter nor I have ever done so.
Neither had I until I was elected. I used to live so far from London.
So the first time you actually went into the Commons was as an MP?
That's right. I remember the first time I walked in, I was with two of the oldest MPs in the House, one on either side. It was certainly a contrast.
Well, we must be getting along. Thank you so much for your advice about my umbrella.
Not at all. I do think it's worth trying this television contest. If they like your idea, you may win some useful capital.
A lot will depend on how I present my plans for developing my invention.
It will.
In that case, I must definitely visit the Commons and see how you members make your speeches there. You know, I've never made a speech in my life.
Conversation for lesson 36.
I had such an interesting meeting with Pamela's employer. I think he's a very fascinating man.
So do I. I thought so when I first met him and still do, although I've worked with him for almost 3 years.
If you're much more enthusiastic, Pamela, you'll make me jealous.
What happened? What did he suggest? Tell us, Harriet.
It was all so interesting. He thought I should enter a television contest.
A television contest? But surely that's only for certain kinds of people, such as bathing beauties and people who are good at party games. With all due respect, Father, I don't think you'd have much success there.
No, but this is a special contest for people with original commercial ideas. Those that are really good receive a prize of £5,000 in order to give them a start. I would enter as a competitor with other inventors.
And what would you have to do?
I'd just have to explain my idea.
On television?
That's right.
With millions of people watching? But, Harry, it would be such an ordeal.
I know.
Suppose you were tongue-tied with all those millions sitting in their drawing rooms watching you stuttering and going red in the face. But there you are, you're even stuttering now, and people would recognise you in the streets and laugh at you.
Oh, I don't think so. You're exaggerating, Mother.
Barbara never believes I'm any good at anything.
I'm sure Father's eloquence will be such that everyone will be most impressed.
Well, Pamela's employer suggested I should enter this contest, and I'm going to do so. Whatever you say.
All right, I'm sorry. As long as you know what you're doing.
Father's always been self-confident, and I'm sure he'll continue to be so, even on television.
Thank you, Peter. I'm quite sure there'll be no difficulty. You'll see.
Conversation for lesson 37.
If Father keeps on talking like this, I'm sure he'll win a prize. But it's a pity he waves his hands about so much.
If you want to talk, turn up the sound. Otherwise, I can't hear. Oh, listen now. Harry's on again.
Could someone please pass over the umbrellas? Thank you. Now, this one in a small envelope is mine, and the other, as you can see, is an old-fashioned umbrella. Now, let's see which can be put up more quickly. You see? Mine goes up in a second when I just press the button. The other takes quite a long time. Again, feel how light mine is compared with the other one.
Yes, it's certainly much lighter.
Much lighter.
Now we'll pour some water over each umbrella. As you can see, when we put down the old-fashioned umbrella, it drips all over the floor, while my umbrella deflates into a rubber envelope which is still dry.
Yes.
And apart from everything else, look how neat and beautiful my umbrella is, compared with the old-fashioned one.
Yes. Now, Mr. Sallis, can you tell me how you first hit upon the idea of the inflatable umbrella?
Well, one afternoon I was caught in a rainstorm, and my old-fashioned umbrella wouldn't open at first, so that I was soaked through. Then, as I was getting it open, it got caught in my raincoat, and as I was struggling with it in front of my face, a bicyclist I hadn't been able to see knocked me over. Finally, when I got home, it was so wet that the water dripped through the floor in the hall onto an electric wire, and when my son put on the light, there was a fuse. After that, I decided it was time to invent something new.
And so you went into the matter. How long was it before you found an answer?
Oh, I went on working for months. Then one day I got it. I went back home and celebrated.
Harry's certainly speaking well, but I do wish he wouldn't wave his arms about so much with the umbrella still in his hand.
And if I might ask, Mr. Sallis, why did you come over to Britain instead of manufacturing your umbrella in your own country?
Well, Britain, after all, is the real home of umbrellas.
I see. Now, Mr. Sallis, have you anything else to add?
Only that I feel this idea would certainly catch on once people know about it. It will make an enormous... Oh, I'm terribly sorry.
Goodness, he's hit one of the interviewers in the face with his inflated umbrella.
I told you he shouldn't wave his hands about.
The poor interviewer seems quite stunned.
Well, there'll be no prize for Harry. It's all over now.
Conversation for lesson 38.
Well, We shan't have to wait long now. It's almost time to go. 2 more days and we'll be flying fast through clear blue skies, I hope, on the direct route home.
Yes, I'm sure you'll enjoy getting back. Father certainly had a hard time with these continual difficulties.
Well, what can you expect in England? The people here are like plum puddings, solid and unimaginative.
Well, that's a hard judgment. I don't think you're being quite fair.
Of course I am. Surely it's pretty obvious, isn't it? Harry's idea is excellent. He's worked very hard to get it accepted. And clearly no one's had the imagination to recognise it.
I don't know. There are some people who've helped a lot.
Yes, but they're not the people who are directly involved. They don't have to accept responsibility. Harry's failed, and it isn't really his fault.
Of course, it's early yet to say that he's failed completely. There's still time. After all, the results of the television contest haven't been announced. It's fairly unlikely that he'll win anything, I admit, but you can hardly be so certain about it.
Why not? Do you really think they're going to give him £5,000 after he hit that short little television man? We must be realistic.
Well, perhaps. Oh, look, here's Pamela. You're late as usual, sweetheart.
I know, I'm sorry. I set out very early, really I did. But I got caught in a traffic jam and it's a long way. As you know, my car isn't exactly fast.
Anyway, you're looking very pretty. We were discussing Harry and the English.
Poor Harry. He's really been depressed lately, and I thought he talked so well in such a lively way on television. Where is he?
Oh, he'll be here shortly. He said he'd come down directly he'd finished writing a few letters.
Here he is. Now the whole family's here.
Barbara, I've got it.
Got what?
The prize, the £5,000.
No!
Isn't it wonderful? They telephoned.
But that's fantastic. In spite of hitting the interviewer?
But that's the whole point. It was because I hit him.
No. How?
Well, you see, it didn't hurt him at all. It gave him a slight shock, of course, but as my umbrella's made of rubber...
You mean an old-fashioned umbrella might have blinded him?
That's right. It showed that my umbrella was superior in yet another way.
Congratulations. It's wonderful. We were so worried, but now you've really made us feel good.
Well, what do you think of the English now, Mother?
Oh, this is a wonderful country.
You mean they're not just like plum puddings after all?
Oh, no.
Amazing, isn't it, how quickly the English seem to change.
Conversation for lesson 39.
Hello, Mr. Hardcastle. This really is a reunion of old friends.
Isn't it? I can't tell you how glad I am that your idea has come off. You certainly deserve it with your amazing perseverance.
Well, thank you. Anyway, one good result is that Pamela and Peter will soon be married.
Yes, I'm so glad you can give Peter a job in your new organization. Now, of course, he'll be able to stay and work in England.
Yes, and luckily my wife's come round to the idea.
Hello, Mr. Sallis.
Oh, hello, Pamela. Hello, Peter.
Isn't this a wonderful celebration? You know, Mr. Sallis, your television interviewer has arrived. He looks very well and unhurt.
And Pamela's employer, the MP, is here. He's so pleased because he thought of the idea of the television contest.
I invited that hard-headed director of the umbrella firm. You know, the one who said that Englishmen had always put up their own umbrellas unaided. But I don't think he's come. Oh, yes, there he is. Look, he's leaning on a walking stick and talking to Barbara. Well, what a surprise.
By the way, that business friend of mine whom you had lunch with seems to have changed his mind about coming in with you. He said the other day that he thought he might well put a few thousands into your enterprise.
Well, nothing succeeds like success. Oh, hello, Mother.
Harry, I've just been talking to the director of that umbrella firm.
And?
Do you know that he hinted at some sort of partnership? He said that he just wanted to see what sort of a man you were, and that now that you've really got your idea started, he thinks you may be just the man for him.
So he wouldn't mind distributing my product alongside his traditional umbrellas. What a revolution, what a triumph.
He said something about keeping up with the
In
times.
fact, he's afraid of your competition.
But it really is wonderful. It's just the sort of backing you need.
It certainly is. After such a hard struggle.
Yes, but now you've shown how able you are.
By hitting a television interviewer in the face.
That was certainly the best thing I ever did.
And now I can stay and work in England.
And now we can get married.
And now thousands of people will be able to carry their umbrellas in their pockets.
Just think of it. We'll soon be joining the idle rich.
We'll soon be helping the country by paying the most enormous taxes.
Dear Harry, I'm so glad you're impulsive and clumsy. I'm so glad you wave your hands about when you talk. What would we have done if you didn't?
Two more days and we'll be flying fast through clear blue skies, I hope, on the direct route home.
Yes, I'm sure you'll enjoy getting back. Father certainly had a hard time with these continual difficulties.
Well, what can you expect in England? The people here are like plum puddings, solid and unimaginative.
Well, that's a hard judgment. I don't think you're being quite fair.
Of course I am. Surely it's pretty obvious, isn't it? Harry's idea is excellent. He's worked very hard to get it accepted. And clearly no one's had the imagination to recognise it.
I don't know. There are some people who've helped a lot.
Yes, but they're not the people who are directly involved. They don't have to accept responsibility. Harry's failed, and it isn't really his fault.
Of course, it's early yet to say that he's failed completely. There's still time. After all, the results of the television contest haven't been announced. It's fairly unlikely that he'll win anything, I admit, but you can hardly be so certain about it.
Why not? Do you really think they're going to give him £5,000 after he hit that short little television man? We must be realistic.
Well, perhaps. Oh, look, here's Pamela. You're late as usual, sweetheart.
I know, I'm sorry. I set out very early, really I did. But I got caught in a traffic jam, and it's a long way. As you know, my car isn't exactly fast.
Anyway, you're looking very pretty. We were discussing Harry and the English.
Poor Harry. He's really been depressed lately, and I thought he talked so well in such a lively way on television. Where is he?
Oh, he'll be here shortly. He said he'd come down directly. He'd finished writing a few letters.
Here he is. Now the whole family's here.
Barbara, I've got it.
Got what?
The prize, the £5,000.
No!
Isn't it wonderful? They telephoned.
But that's fantastic. In spite of hitting the interviewer?
But that's the whole point. It was because I hit him.
No. How?
Well, you see, it didn't hurt him at all. It gave him a slight shock, of course, but as my umbrella's made of rubber...
You mean an old-fashioned umbrella might have blinded him?
That's right. It showed that my umbrella was superior in yet another way.
Congratulations. It was... We were so worried, but now you really made us feel good.
Well, what do you think of the English now, Mother?
Oh, this is a wonderful country.
You mean they're not just like plum puddings after all?
Oh, no.
Amazing, isn't it, how quickly the English seem to change. Conversation for lesson 39.
Hello, Mr. Hardcastle. This really is a reunion of old friends.
Isn't it? I can't tell you how glad I am that your idea has come off. You certainly deserve it with your amazing perseverance.
Well, thank you. Anyway, one good result is that Pamela and Peter will soon be married.
Yes, I'm so glad you can give Peter a job in your new organization. Now, of course, he'll be able to stay and work in England.
Yes, and luckily my wife's come round to the idea.
Hello, Mr. Salis.
Oh, hello, Pamela. Hello, Peter.
Isn't it a wonderful celebration? You know, Mr. Salis, your television interviewer has arrived. He looks very well and unhurt.
And Pamela's employer, the MP, is here. He's so pleased because he thought of the idea of the television contest.
I invited that hard-headed director of the umbrella firm. You know, the one who said that Englishmen had always put up their own umbrellas unaided. But I don't think he's come. Oh, yes, there he is. Look, he's leaning on a walking stick and talking to Barbara. Oh, what a surprise.
By the way, that business friend of mine whom you had lunch with seems to have changed his mind about coming in with you.
He said the other day that he thought he might well put a few thousands into your enterprise. Well, nothing succeeds like success. Oh, hello, Mother.
Harry, I've just been talking to the director of that umbrella firm.
And?
You know that he hinted at some sort of partnership. He said that he just wanted to see what sort of a man you were, and that now that you've really got your idea started, he thinks you may be just the man for him.
So he wouldn't mind distributing my product alongside his traditional umbrellas. What a revolution, what a triumph.
He said something about keeping up with the times.
In fact, he's afraid of your competition.
But it really is wonderful. It's just the sort of backing you need.
It certainly is. After such a hard struggle.
Yes, but now you've shown how able you are.
By hitting a television interviewer in the face.
That was certainly the best thing I ever did.
And now I can stay and work in England.
And now we can get married.
And now thousands of people will be able to carry their umbrellas in their pockets.
Just think of it. We'll soon be joining the idle rich.
We'll soon be helping the country by paying the most enormous taxes.
Dear Harry, I'm so glad you're impulsive and clumsy. I'm so glad you wave your hands about when you talk. What would we have done if you didn't?